When Donald Trump made that offhand comment about Michelle Obama, the air in the room shifted. It wasn't the kind of jab that simply fades into the noise of political banter. It struck a chord because it was personal. For years, debates and public exchanges had been filled with sharp retorts and quick comebacks. But this moment was different. By mentioning Michelle in a dismissive and cutting way, he crossed into territory where words could no longer be brushed off as simple campaign rhetoric. The audience felt it immediately, an uneasy mix of laughter from some, silence from others, and a sharp intake of breath from those who recognized that a line had just been crossed. Asterisk. The thing about personal attacks is that they rarely achieve their intended effect. On the surface, they're designed to rattle an opponent, to catch them off guard, and to draw attention away from the issues, but more often than not, they backfire. In this case, the attack wasn't just aimed at Obama's wife, it was aimed at a woman admired by millions for her grace, her advocacy, and her authenticity. To those watching, it felt less like a clever dig, and more like an unnecessary strike at someone who wasn't even on the stage to defend herself. Asterisk. Trump had built a reputation on being brash, unapologetic, and unfiltered. That style often worked in rallies where his supporters enjoyed the unpredictability of his words, but under the bright lights of a live event, when the nation was watching, that same style carried risks. People weren't just evaluating policies, they were evaluating character. And in that moment, the contrast between the two men was laid bare. While one chose to throw a personal insult, the other had the chance to show how dignity could outweigh mockery. Asterisk. For Barack Obama, the comment presented a choice. He could have responded in kind, firing back with a personal remark of his own, or he could take a different route. His decision to calmly address the situation not only neutralized the attack, but also magnified its pettiness. By refusing to sink to the same level, he allowed Trump's words to echo for what they were, an unprovoked insult that spoke louder about the man who delivered it than the woman it was aimed at. Asterisk. This is where the nature of personal attacks becomes clear. They may spark headlines and grab quick attention, but they rarely leave behind respect. Instead, they often diminish the speaker while elevating the person who absorbs and responds with composure. The public tends to remember who maintained their integrity, not who managed the sharpest insult. In this case, millions of viewers saw a husband stand up for his wife, not with anger, but with quiet strength. Asterisk. Trump's remark about Michelle did more than put Obama in the placed Michelle herself at the center of the conversation, and that worked against him. Michelle Obama had long been admired for her intelligence, her advocacy for children's health, and her ability to connect with people in a way that felt genuine. She wasn't seen as a political target, but as someone who had consistently carried herself with grace despite years of scrutiny. To attack her, even indirectly, felt too many like targeting the wrong person, the wrong way, at the wrong time. Asterisk. That is the paradox of personal attacks. They can draw attention in the short term, but they almost always carry consequences. In this case, the consequence was immediate. The audience rallied behind Obama's defense, not because it was fiery, but because it was measured. It highlighted the contrast between two very different approaches to leadership, one based on belittling, the other based on respect. Asterisk. The moment became a case study in how words can reveal character. Trump may have believed his comment would rattle his opponent, but instead, it gave Obama the perfect opportunity to demonstrate the value of staying composed when provoked. Personal attacks often reveal desperation, a need to shift focus away from substance and toward spectacle. Obama recognized that, and used the moment to his advantage, redirecting the conversation toward values that resonated with the audience. Asterisk. In the end, the comment about Michelle didn't weaken Obama, it strengthened him. It reminded people that when someone you love is unfairly targeted, the way you respond matters. And in that room, under the glare of the cameras, Obama showed that dignity can dismantle insult far more effectively than any counterattack. Attack itself was meant to undermine, but instead, it backfired and exposed the limits of relying on personal jabs in a setting where leadership is measured not by volume, but by respect. Asterisk. When the moment arrived for Barack Obama to respond, the room felt tense. All eyes were on him, waiting to see whether he would rise to the bait or fire back with the same kind of sharp-edged language Donald Trump had just used. For a few seconds, there was silence, the kind of silence that builds expectation. Then, instead of raising his voice or delivering a cutting insult, Obama leaned into the microphone and spoke with a calm, steady tone. That choice to remain composed rather than mirror the chaos of his opponent was what gave his words weight. It wasn't volume that carried his response. It was restraint. Asterisk. Trump had built a public persona on being unpredictable and often confrontational. His style thrived on generating reactions, whether laughter from supporters or outrage from opponents. That unpredictability made him stand out in debates and live appearances, but it also left him vulnerable when faced with someone who wouldn't play the same game. Obama understood this dynamic well. By staying calm, he denied Trump the satisfaction of a sparring match. Instead, he shifted the energy of the room away from spectacle and toward substance. Asterisk. The power of Obama's response wasn't just in the words. themselves, but in how he delivered them. His measured pace, his steady voice, and his refusal to get drawn into an emotional exchange stood in sharp contrast to Trump's sharp remark. For the audience, that difference was clear. On one side, they saw a man relying on provocation. On the other, they saw a man using composure as his strongest tool. That contrast resonated more deeply than any insult could. Asterisk in politics, especially in live debates, the ability to remain calm under pressure is often more valuable than having the sharpest comeback. Audiences don't just listen to what is said, watch how it is said. When Trump made his comment about Michelle Obama, many expected a heated confrontation, but Obama's calmness shifted the narrative. Rather than adding fuel to the fire, he extinguished it by refusing to give anger the stage. His control of the moment reminded viewers that true strength often lies in discipline, not in volume. Asterisk remaining calm in the face of provocation also sends a message of confidence. Obama didn't need to raise his voice to command the room. He had the audience's attention precisely because he wasn't rattled. Trump's strategy depended on disrupting that composure, but it didn't work. Instead, the calmness highlighted just how much control Obama had over his emotions and over the direction of the conversation. That kind of control is what many people associate with leadership and ability to stay grounded no matter the storm around you. Asterisk. The effect on the audience was immediate. Applause came not just because of what Obama said, but because of how he carried himself. People recognized that they were seeing two very different approaches play out in real time. One was loud and provocative. The other was calm and dignified. And for many, the calm approach carried more weight. It wasn't just about scoring a point. It was about embodying the kind of leadership people wanted to see in moments of tension. Asterisk Trump's comment had been designed to create chaos, to throw Obama off balance and shift the focus of the debate. But when chaos meets.com almost always wins in the eyes of those watching. Instead of being remembered for his remark, Trump became overshadowed by Obama's composed response. It was a reminder that sometimes the most powerful way to win a moment isn't by fighting louder, but by refusing to fight on the same terms at all. Asterisk this calmness also carried a deeper message. By not escalating the exchange, Obama showed that respect and composure could turn a negative situation into an opportunity. He used the moment to remind people of values like dignity and unity, rather than letting it spiral into personal insults. That approach not only neutralized Trump's remark, but also elevated the conversation. For the viewers at home, it felt less like a clash of egos and more like a lesson in how to handle provocation without losing control. Asterisk. The decision to remain calm in the face of Trump's comment was not just a reaction, it was strategy. Character and leadership all rolled into one. It showed that composure under pressure is not weakness, but strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. In that live moment, Obama's calm voice carried further than any loud exchange could have, leaving Trump's comment behind and shifting the spotlight back onto the kind of leader who can rise above the noise. Asterisk. When Barack Obama responded to Donald Trump's remark about Michelle Beer, he did something that immediately changed the energy in the room. He didn't match insult with insult. Instead, he spoke with respect not just toward Michelle as his wife, but toward her as a public figure admired by millions. By reminding everyone of her years of service, her advocacy for children, and her role in inspiring families across the country, he shifted the focus from Trump's words to Michelle's accomplishments. The audience wasn't just hearing a defense, they were being reminded of why they respected her in the first place. Respect resonated far more than the insult ever could. Asterisk Michelle Obama has long been seen as more than just a first lady. To many, she represents dignity, resilience, and authenticity. When Trump made his dismissive remark, it felt personal to people who admired her, as if he was brushing aside someone who had worked tirelessly to make a positive difference. Obama understood this, and his response tapped into that shared respect. Instead of reducing the moment to a back-and-forth argument, he elevated Michelle in a way that left the audience nodding, applauding, and remembering her impact. Asterisk Trump's style often thrived on tearing others down, but this was a moment where that approach backfired. When you attack someone who is widely admired, you risk uniting people against you. Obama's respectful defense only amplified that effect. By calmly affirming Michelle's value, he contrasted Trump's insult with a reminder of what she stood for: community, compassion, and opportunity. That contrast made the insult look small, while Michelle's legacy loomed large in the minds of viewers. Asterisk. The power of respect in that moment also went beyond defending one person. It highlighted something larger about leadership. Leaders are often judged not by how they handle success, but by how they respond to attacks. Obama's defense of Michelle wasn't just about family loyalty, it was about modeling the idea that respect has a place even in the most heated political moments. People watching at home saw a husband standing up for his wife, but they also saw a leader choosing dignity over anger. That choice carried weight, because it reminded them of the qualities they want in someone who represents them. Asterisk for many in the audience, Obama's words echoed something they had long believed, that Michelle's contributions couldn't be erased with a casual remark. She had inspired children to dream bigger, encouraged families to eat healthier, and supported military spouses who often felt overlooked. These weren't abstract ideas. They were tangible efforts that touched everyday lives. So when Trump tried to reduce her with an insult, Obama's respectful reply brought all those memories back to the surface. Respect became the stronger message, and the crowd's response proved it. Asterisk, what made the moment so effective was that it wasn't forced. Obama's defense of Michelle didn't sound rehearsed or staged. It came across as genuine. That authenticity deepened the impact. People could sense that he wasn't just protecting his wife from an insult. He was affirming the values she represented. Respect, in that sense, wasn't just about words, it was about reinforcing a shared understanding of who Michelle was to the country. Asterisk, Trump may have hoped the insult would rattle Obama, but it ended up highlighting the difference between tearing someone down and lifting them up. Obama's choice to elevate Michelle in that moment reflected a truth that people in the audience felt strongly about. Respect carries further than mockery. The applause that followed was a reflection of that connection. It wasn't applause for a clever comeback, it was applause for reminding everyone of what truly mattered. Asterisk. The moment revealed something important about how audiences respond to conflict. They don't always rally behind the loudest voice or the harshest attack. More often, they connect with the person who shows respect, especially when it's directed at someone they admire. Obama's defense of Michelle worked because it tapped into that instinct. It reminded people that even in the midst of heated debates, respect can stand out as the most powerful response. Asterisk, Trump's comment may have sparked the exchange, but it was Obama's respect that defined it. In defending Michelle with dignity and composure, he not only neutralized the insult but turned it into an opportunity to show what leadership can look like. Respect resonated with the audience in a way no insult ever could, leaving a lasting impression of a moment where words were used not to tear down, but to lift up. Asterisk. In the moments after Donald Trump's remark about Michelle, the focus shifted to Barack Obama. Everyone in the room, and millions more watching at home, wanted to see how he would handle it. What unfolded was not just a defense of his wife, but a demonstration of leadership in its purest form. Instead of reacting with anger or a cutting retort, Obama framed his response in a way that reminded the audience of what leadership truly means. The ability to rise above personal attacks and keep the focus on values that matter. Asterisk, Trump's comment was designed to provoke, to stir emotion, and perhaps throw Obama off balance. That strategy might have worked against someone who thrived on the same energy, but it didn't work against Obama. His calm rebuttal was about more than just setting the record straight. It was about setting an example. He made it clear that leadership isn't measured by how sharp your insults can be, but by how steady you remain when insulted. That distinction turned the exchange into something larger than a debate. It became a lesson in character. As he spoke, Obama reminded the audience that Michelle's work was rooted in service, supporting military families, improving children's health, and inspiring young people to pursue their dreams. By highlighting those contributions, he didn't just defend her honor, he used the moment to show that real leadership involves recognizing and uplifting others. Trump had chosen to minimize Michelle with a remark, but Obama chose to elevate her by acknowledging her impact. That contrast was striking, and it framed the discussion in a way that left Trump on the defensive. Asterisk, the essence of leadership, as Obama displayed in that moment, is knowing when to push back and when to take the higher ground. People in the audience weren't just judging the words being spoken, they were evaluating demeanor, composure, and respect. Trump's style leaned into confrontation, but Obama's strength was in refusing to let the confrontation define him. By redirecting the conversation back to values like respect, service, and unity, he showed that true leadership is about more than winning an argument. It's about shaping the tone of the conversation. Asterisk, what stood out most was how Obama managed to turn a moment of provocation into a demonstration of steadiness. His words carried the authority of someone who didn't need to prove himself through insults. That confidence resonated with people watching, because it reminded them that leadership is about representing something larger than yourself. It's about showing composure when tested, and about choosing to lead with principle rather than ego. Asterisk, Trump may have expected his remark to create a storm, but storms only hold power when the other person engages in them. Obama didn't, remained calm, respectful, and focused. And in doing so, he shifted the energy in the room completely. The applause he received wasn't just for defending Michelle, it was for embodying the qualities people want in a leader: restraint, dignity, and vision. Asterisk, the exchange highlighted how two very different approaches to leadership can play out, side by side. On one hand, there was Trump's tendency to provoke and disrupt. On the other, there was Obama's ability to absorb the provocation without being shaken. Audiences remember those contrasts long after the words fade, because they reveal something deeper about character. Obama's response showed that leadership isn't about being the loudest voice. It's about being the steady voice that brings clarity in the middle of noise. By choosing dignity over insult, Obama left a lasting impression. He demonstrated that leadership isn't tested when everything is easy, but when everything is tense. In that live setting, under the bright lights, with the weight of the audience's expectations pressing in, he didn't just respond to a comment, he redefined the moment. His composure, his respect for Michelle, and his ability to refocus the conversation became an example of what it means to lead with integrity. Trump's remark may have been intended as a disruption, but it ultimately gave Obama the opportunity to showcase qualities that resonated more deeply with viewers. People walked away not remembering the insult as much as they remembered the way it was answered. That's what leadership does. It shifts attention away from negativity and towards something meaningful. In that exchange, Obama didn't just defend his wife, he reminded everyone watching that leadership is defined not by pettiness, but by the strength to rise above it. As the debate moment faded into the larger memory of that night, what lingered wasn't Donald Trump's insult, but Barack Obama's response. People remembered the tone, the steadiness, and the way he shifted the entire atmosphere by refusing to match insult with insult. It became more than just an exchange between two political figures. It became an example of how character is revealed under pressure. In the fast-moving world of live debates, candidates often look for the sharpest soundbite, the one-liner that will be replayed across news cycles. Trump has always leaned on that strategy, using bold remarks to grab attention. But attention is not the same as respect, and that was the defining takeaway from this moment. Obama didn't just answer an insult, he turned it into an opportunity to highlight values that connect with people on a deeper level. Respect for family, recognition of service, and the ability to rise above pettiness. For Michelle Obama, the moment also served as a reminder of the admiration she carries among the public. Trump's attempt to minimize her only strengthened the appreciation people had for her work and the dignity with which she has carried herself in the public eye. By defending her with calm confidence, Obama reinforced that admiration, ensuring that her contributions would be at the center of the conversation rather than the insult itself. The exchange underscored a larger truth about leadership. Leaders aren't remembered for the insults they trade, but for the composure they show when tested. Trump's remark may have been designed to provoke, but Obama's calm, respectful response became the lasting image. That choice revealed a style of leadership rooted in dignity, one that doesn't need to shout to be heard. For the audience. Both in the room and watching across the country, the moment offered a clear contrast. On one side was provocation, on the other was poise. On one side was an attempt to disrupt, on the other was a demonstration of steadiness. People don't forget those contrasts. They become markers of how individuals carry themselves when the pressure is highest. In the days that followed, the exchange was replayed and discussed, not because of the insult, but because of how effectively Obama turned it around. His defense of Michelle was more than just a personal moment, it became a broader statement about how respect and composure can shift even the tensest situations. It reminded viewers that politics doesn't always have to be about who can land the hardest punch. Sometimes it's about who can stand tall when provoked. Looking back, the moment was less about confrontation and more about clarity. Obama showed that leadership means protecting what matters, not by lowering yourself to the level of insult, but by holding firm to principles. Trump's comment may have sparked the exchange, but it was Obama's response that defined it. And in the end, that response carried further, resonating with anyone who believes that dignity will